Now we're going to do our title sequence and credits sequence so that we'll have a completed project. Won't have animation yet, but we'll get this part out of the way. So on the right hand side here we have our scene window, and let's click on title. This gets us to our beginning part that has our start button and our title. We have three layers here. The top one is locked because it fades to black, so the top layer has that black rectangle that fades in. Our text is on the middle layer as well as our start button, and if you want to add a background, that goes on our background layer. So let's do that. We'll click on our background layer, and you can click anywhere in the container, but the first frame is probably best so we don't have any of the fading business. And for my title slide, I wanted to use this wolf image. And again, we can have two stages checked, so we can center it both ways. And this one's a little bit short, so if I hold down the Shift key, I can make this at least bigger than the stage, so that it's all covered. And I highly suggest you change the title from My 30-Second Story. So if we double click on that, we can select our text and retype something. Not quite accurate, but there we go. To save your typing, just click outside of the text box. And let's switch back to our select tool, or you can press V on the keyboard. And just click once on your text this time. Now that we've got it typed out, you're welcome to change the font. So if we click under font family here, you can try some other ones. Ooh, that's pretty neat. We can also change the color. Since we have a dark background, a lighter color is probably better. You can even, if you wish, once you click on the color chip there, you can bring the eyedropper tool over and pick a color that is already in the image. The start button, we can see, has some programming to it, including it pressing, but we have a problem with that, but it does work. So go back to frame 1. Now that we have that done, it doesn't hurt to file and save before we go on to the credits. And again, we have a background layer and a text layer. So let's click on the background layer, and I was going to use a more modern version of what Toronto looks like. And again, we'll center our image. Double click to do the text. So, of course, you'll put your names in. Click outside, press V to get my arrow tool, select it. And I can either use the same font, which would possibly make sense, but because we have a completely different modern background, maybe we want to do something more modern. And for color, I think I'll pick a nice deep blue to go with the sky. And there we have our start button, which will replay the animation. Won't work right now though. So let's file and save that. And we can actually test the whole movie at this point. So if we go up to Control, we can choose Test Movie, and it's going to export the whole thing into its own little window here, and we get to see everything happening.
Around 20,000 years ago, Toronto was covered by a huge glacier 2 kilometers thick.
When the glacier melted, it formed Lake Iroquois and the waterfront of the time.
Lake Iroquois and many of the neighboring rivers acted like the roads and highways for the Aboriginal people.
The Aboriginal people traveled by canoe to reach many hunting, fishing, and trading grounds and other locations.
Lake Iroquois eventually dwindled into what we now call Lake Ontario.
There we go. So we can close this little window once you're done and go back to the 30-second story part, because if there's time, you can do all the fun stuff.